So today, the date is 17th August 2021, and we are going to look at today's Hindu editorial. And before we move on, let us look at the new words that we'll come across. First one is bleak. That means cold, miserable, and this is in the sense of weather and not in the sense of a habit. Okay, and the other is surreal, which is very strange. The next word is testimony. That is evidence or proof. So instead of using it in the sense of a quote, you're saying that give us the proof. You can use it instead as present the testimony. And the last word is receptive, which is willing to accept new suggestions and ideas. So receptive can be we can say that it comes from the word receive. So someone who accepts whatever you say, like whatever suggestions you give them, they readily take it instead of arguing or anything like that. Okay, now moving on to the article that we are going to read today, that is fall of Kabul. With Afghanistan under the total control of the Taliban, the future looks bleak, and as I had told you, it means cold and miserable. And now, if you will go back to look our last to last editorial, there we had talked about how the Taliban has captured most of the Afghanistan except the Kabul region. We talked about their strategy of first capturing all the areas that lie on the border, and that also they started from the rural areas, and then when they got ammunition and everything from there and they grew more stronger, they attacked the cities, and they were also able to control the major cities. We discussed two or three of them, the largest and the major ones. So now, and in that data we looked upon that there was one data that said that Taliban would almost take 90 days, that is approximately 3 months, to actually capture the capital city, that is Kabul. But just 2 days later we can see that they have already captured Kabul. So we also discussed that they had looked upon the data that was 90 days, and they said no, the rate at which they are capturing the whole of it, it's just very fast, so they would take 30 days at least. But now we can see just within 2 or 3 days they have already captured Kabul, and you can see there are many videos viral on social media platforms where people are running to board on the aeroplanes that USA has sent to get its militants out. Although USA is claiming that we'll also take care of the citizens of Afghanistan, but till now they haven't taken any such serious steps. Okay. So further moving on, history came full circle on August 15 when Taliban captured Kabul, almost 20 years after the US launched its global war on terror. So you can see this war on terror. So this was something that was taken out by then president of USA, that was John Bush. So he took out this movement after the 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center, and in this two of the tallest and the most major buildings of USA were just ruined into pieces. They were bombed, yeah. So the city of roughly 5 million people fell to Islamist insurgents without even a fight, while Afghan President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. And the Americans abandoned their embassy and rushed to Kabul airport. It was a surreal moment for the US, which has pleaded to defeat the Taliban in every corner of Afghanistan, and a tragedy for the Afghans who were left at the mercy of murderous militia. So here, as you can see, it's talking about the same thing that I already talked, that people are just under the Taliban, and their president, who need to take care of the people, had already fled the country. And as I had talked, that the Americans are also leaving, they're departing, and the citizens, the normal people, are left in the hands of murderous militia, because no one knows what will happen. As we have already seen, when this kind of situations there in any of the country, as you can see, when wars happen, especially like the Syrian war that's going on, so many people are being displaced and everything. But at the same time, there's a major threat to women and children. Like, especially in the case of women, there's a lot of security threat, and no one knows what these men can do to them. Because if you see a data that was released a few years earlier, it was in the case of India. It said that 90% of the crimes that happens are done by males. So you can see what males can do. The soldiers did not fight police, abandoned their stations. So the soldiers also did not fight back when the Taliban came to capture them, and also the police also readily abandoned their stations. Former Northern Alliance warlords left the country, and the government crumbled like proverbial house of cards. So here, this term comes Northern Alliance. So Northern Alliance is also one of the groups of Afghanistan, which was in the fight for power during the 1994 to 1998 time, when there was a chaos in the country and everyone was fighting for power. And you'll be surprised to know that Northern Alliance is one group of which Taliban is scared, because they have almost never been able to defeat them, and now even they are leaving the country. And in the news, if you have been aware, people are like different countries are thinking of supporting the Northern Alliance so that they can defeat Taliban, and maybe the situation can better. So, and the government crumbled like proverbial house of cards. So there's a proverb that is house of cards. As you can see, if you make a house made up of cards, even a single blow, a slightest of blow, can blow it away. It can just destroy it. So it's just saying there's no, like, it's not strong enough to hold together. Even a single thing can, like, the slightest of thing can destroy it. So, and I'll just suggest you, there's also a book by Sudha Murthy called The House of Cards. It's a wonderful book. You should read it. So there is already worrying news coming from the provinces that the Taliban are enforcing a strict religious code on the public and violence against anyone who resists. So here you can see that there's already news coming up everywhere that the Taliban has already started its work, and they are trying to enforce strict rules, religious codes, and anyone who dares to break them or violate them, they are being brutally punished. And if you look, last time when Taliban was in power, they had imposed Sharia law, with strict Sharia law, under which women had no right to education, no free movement. They had to cover all parts of their body, from the one strand of hair to their nails, everything. And everything, like, women had no rights, you can say, in short. So here, okay, the last time the Taliban were in power, women were not allowed to work. They had to cover their faces and be accompanied by a male relative outside their house. Girls were not allowed to go to school. The Taliban had also banned TV, music, painting, and photography, handed out brutal forms of punishment to those violating their Islamic code, and persecuted minorities. So here it's the same thing that I just said now, that all the rights of women were abolished, and no media, like, there wasn't any media platform that was given to the people to share their opinion and know what's going on anywhere. Like, if you know what's the major thing why this they impose this censorship, even if you look in North Korea, so there also they have this censorship, no free media, nothing. This is because if wait, excuse me. They impose this censorship because if people are able to connect through these things, they can come together and fight against them, and there can be a huge revolt, and maybe that can defeat them. So they connect all sorts of connection between the people, so that you are alone, and when one is alone, they cannot do a lot. But when you come in a group, you can do anything you want, like you have power. So that's why they want to decrease your power, and that's why they use this. And also we can see that last time they executed minorities as well. The chaotic scene from Kabul airport, where people are desperately trying to cling on to airplanes hoping to leave the country, bear testimony to their fear of Taliban. So here you can see, as we had mentioned, this is the same word, testimony. Testimony means evidence. And so here, as I mentioned earlier, that there are videos that are going viral on social media platforms, that these citizens of Afghanistan are trying to cling on to the aeroplanes. Even they know that when the airplane would fly up in that air, there will be so much resistance, there will be so much drag, they might just fall down from that height and die. But still, they are clinging on to the airplanes because they do not want to die in the hands of Taliban. And when they know if they live in Afghanistan, there's no hope for them to survive. But if they leave Afghanistan, there's 1%, not even 1, but 0.1% of hope that they will survive. And because of this hope, they are just doing all absurd things. This is a historic development that will have lasting implications for global geopolitics. Unlike 1996, this is not only about the Taliban taking power. This is also about an Islamist group with a medieval mindset and modern weapons defeating the world's most powerful country. The US can say its defense that its mission was to fight Al Qaeda, and that it met its strategic. Excuse me. Let me just erase this part. And that it met its strategic objectives, but in reality, after spending 20 years in Afghanistan to fight terrorism and rebuild the Afghanistan state, the US ran away from the battlefield, embarrassing itself and leaving its allies helpless. So here we are talking about, like, in this if we talk about the 1996 case, so that time Taliban, although it was able to defeat all other groups in the country, but it wasn't that powerful as it is now. So that time they had weapons, but not as many as they have now. So here it's saying that this time we have more threat, because that time US tried to invade Afghanistan, and they tried to control the situation, and they were able to for some time. But now they are defeating the world's most powerful country, US itself. So now it's just got out of control. And the thing is that they have medieval mindset, that they have backward mindset. It's not like somebody is coming into power who is going to bring good reforms and let people enjoy all the right, but they have backward mindset. So as you can see, they are going to again impose strict laws, and people will not be allowed to do anything, and their development will stop. The children will not be able to go express or have their full potential. So that's what. And also it's saying that the US, now the US can claim, like, it's very shameful for the US to say that they were not able to create a stagnant or maybe a stable situation in Afghanistan even after 20 years. And 20 years is not a very small time. Okay, so the US can bring forth or put forth things like, it can just to prevent itself, that our mission was to just get rid of Al Qaeda, because it was Al Qaeda who had bombed the World Trade Center. But it wasn't, because as you can see, it says war and terror. So Taliban is also a terrorist group. So they were not able to fulfill their agenda, but they might claim that they are able to, because they only kept wanted to eradicate Al Qaeda. The images of Arg, the presidential palace in Kabul, and the airport will continue to haunt President Joe Biden and the US for a long time. So it's saying the image, the people are coming outside the president house, and even what's going on in the airports of Kabul, that's going to haunt Joe Biden. Joe Biden. That's the current president of USA, because it was his decision to just uh, announce this. Although Trump had also claimed that we'll retreat our army, but Joe Biden just set a date and said, whatever condition it might be, we'll just retreat by this and this date. So this quick retrieval wasn't a very good idea, and this is going to haunt him for a long time, because the world is going to criticize USA, and its image has been going image has deprived. Okay. In 1996, when the Taliban took Kabul, the government did not flee the country. Ahmed Shah Massoud and Burhanuddin Rabbani retreated to Panjshir Valley, from where they regrouped the Northern Alliance and continued resistance against the Taliban. This time, there is no Northern Alliance, there is no government. The whole country, except some pockets, is now firmly under the Taliban's control. The Taliban are also more receptive to regional players such as China and Russia, while Pakistan is openly celebrating their triumph. It remains to be seen what kind of regime a stronger Taliban will install in Kabul. If the 1990s are anything to go by, darker days are ahead in Kabul. So here it's talking that in 1996, when Taliban came into power, that time the government still was there and did not flee the country. But this time, if you look, the government had already fled the country, and there's no one to handle the country except for the Taliban, and the whole of the power is in the hands of Taliban. And when in 1996 Taliban came into power, then the government plus Northern Alliance, as I talked earlier, they came together and fought against Taliban. But this time, as we had discussed earlier, the Northern Alliance is also not there. So there is no government, no one to handle the situation, and it's all in the hands of Taliban. It's just autonomous power in their hands, and if they kill all the people and there's no government and nothing, so they'll have a piece of land on the earth, and they can launch many terrorist attacks all over the country, all over the globe. And also that this Taliban is being supported by very known and powerful players such as China and Russia. And although they are not claiming it directly, but they are, because if you look, a few weeks earlier, the Taliban group leaders were invited to China, and they shook hands with the current president of China, so Xi Jinping. And also Pakistan is also a country that's supporting it, but unlike Russia and China, Pakistan is very frank about it, and they are openly celebrating their triumph. And this time we cannot see a bright future for Afghanistan, and only darker days, with more crimes against women, men and children, against the old age people. And we can see the most poorest of the poor are going to be the women, the girls, because they are treated as objects. There's a rape culture that follows in the whole of the world. So they are the ones who are most at the risk, and also the other countries, the neighboring countries, because they can launch many terrorist attacks on many of them. So yeah, that was the article that we had today.